Okay, guess we'll get started. Renee, please show all board members except for Ms. Gilkey and who else?
Ms. Kraft.
And Ms. Crabb, sorry, not here. So, all right, and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next item is the approval of the agenda. Any changes tonight?
No.
No. Okay. Have a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you, Ms. Oman.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. All in favor? Be 5-0. Thank you. Dr. Millen, no public comments on agenda items?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, and we have next is the board planning, goals, and strategies. We have the College and Career Readiness Advisory update. So I think Mr. Harris taking us through that.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Mr. Pavey. Board, good evening. Let's start with just the College Career Readiness Initiative. Wanted to give you a brief update. And board, just so you know, first 4 or 5 slides, I'm going to go through pretty quickly. You have seen them, but I wanted to kind of update you on the work we've been doing. You remember that the goal is part of the strategic plan to ensure post-secondary education or employment opportunities. I want you to know these first 4 or 5 slides have kind of been what we've been showing just about everybody that we've been presenting, and it's important for us to keep this out in front of our team so that we know. We go over our key metrics, and you're familiar with those, but we've been sharing those with all the different groups that we've been presenting. And then why the College and Career Readiness Initiative, and we really have focused on the rigor, the relevance, and the relationship. So these are the first few slides that we've been showing. Board, you'll remember, or you're aware that we've got the school or the corporation advisory group, and what we're going to start doing is, we've talked about this a couple of times, is have school-based advisory. And what we've got is the teachers have decided which pathway, they've chosen a pathway, and they'll be meeting with that pathway, and within that pathway, we're going to have 5 business representatives that will meet with those teachers. We're going to ask them to do that about 4 times a year. So what that means is there will be a group of, let's say, secondary at a Charlestown High School. There's a group of English and social studies and science teachers, and maybe they've picked the business pathway. Well, they will be able to sit down with 5 business reps that are familiar or work in that business area, and they can talk to them about the real life applications. And then the intent would be then those teachers would take it back to their departments and take it back to their classrooms, and as they're teaching a lesson, they could say to our students, if you're on the business pathway, let me tell you why you would need to know this. Let me bring relevance into the classroom. So we've been working with a lot of our businesses to find volunteers. If we do that at all 6 secondary schools, that's quite a few volunteers that we're going to need to meet with our teachers. Michael Denny and Jeannie Null have been doing that, and we've just about got all of those. So we're really excited about that. Should have first meetings with our teachers by by spring break. So we're really excited about that, and it's coming. You're familiar with our college and career centers. We're going to have grand openings on March the 19th at Jeffersonville High School and at Charlestown High School. You'll remember both of those schools received a generous donation to equip both of those centers from the United Way, and we'll have representatives there as well. We've also identified a spot at New Washington High School, and it is currently under construction. So we'll have that finished here really closely. We've got a really kind of a unique spot up at New Washington. It's right off the side of their cafeteria and their auditorium, and really excited with the things that we're going to be able to do there. So we've identified that. We've met with Mr. Hobgood, and we'll certainly be starting that. I'm looking at Ms. Zolman because I want her to know we're getting on that, and it's under construction. So we're excited about that. I would say in a month we'll have them up and running in all three high schools. Naviance board, you'll remember that is the software that we're using. This is the high school aspect. When our counselors, one of the things that we've asked them to do, or I guess directed them to do, is meet one-on-one with our students at least 2 times a year. And when they do those one-on-one counseling sessions, they are using Naviance to discuss the different types of careers as well as the colleges. They also use eDocs, and those are documents as far as transcripts that we would send to colleges. It's also a way for teachers to make recommendations. That's what Teacher Rex is. Teachers would make recommendations or write recommendations for our students, and they can do that through Naviance. A very rich and robust system of tracking those college apps and those recommendations. And we're also able to run reports from Naviance. All of our scholarships and searches are on Naviance now. It used to be that a student would walk down to the counseling center and pick up a piece of the paper or pick up the website. They do all that electronically now, especially with our one-to-one initiative. It just really is working out seamlessly. They can also come down to those career centers, and we have computers available for them down there, and they can log on and get onto our scholarships and applications. They can continue to do ongoing college search, and really just really it's amazing how much they're really using this Naviance. And then, of course, we're using it in our freshman career classes. There's a Naviance curriculum where they do some of the career assessments, and then we'll explore the careers, and then that will tell them what colleges they might use. Our middle schools are just a little bit behind our high schools. If you'll recall, we rolled that out to our high schools first. But we are using it in our 6th grade college and career classes. Our 7th graders are doing it through counseling programs in their classrooms. And then the 8th grade, they're using it as they're starting to meet with the counselors, picking their classes for their freshman year or next year as they move that for transitioning. Project Lead the Way. Board, you're very much aware of what we've invested in Project Lead the Way, and we'll continue to do that for next year. Wanted the board to know that we're going to be adding another Project Lead the Way component, and that's the computer science classes. Very excited to offer that. So we'll actually have 3 prongs, if you will, of the Project Lead the Way. We'll have the engineering, the biology or the medical detectives, and now we'll have the computer science. So that's their 3rd program, and we'll start offering that at both high schools. Really, with the investments that we've made for the last couple of years, we already had a lot of those computers already in place, and it's just a matter of finding the licensed teacher to offer and give our kids another course offering. So we're excited about that. One of the things that we did at Jeffersonville High School, we're getting ready to do it at Charlestown High School, is we brought the Project Lead the Way teachers from the middle schools up to the high school to see what the Project Lead the Way high school looked like, and we brought the counselors up so that they can talk a little bit more intelligently and see firsthand what's going on in those classes. So we spend about a half a day with those folks at Jeff High, and we're going to do the same thing at Charlestown. So really excited about the Project Lead the Way. Connexus board, you're familiar with that. We will continue the 2nd year at Jeffersonville High School next year, but very proud to say that we'll start that at Charlestown High School and New Washington next year. That's one of the course offerings, and that'll be for the advanced manufacturing. So really excited that we'll have that in all 3 high schools next year. I can't say enough about the team that I work with, Michael Denny and Jeannie Null and just the whole team. In conjunction with Junior Achievement, we have a lot of job shadowing, field trips, and I think what's really neat up there is if you'll see the diversity. We took a group over to the Kentucky Opera, and no pun intended, they rolled out the red carpet for our kids. And our kids that are in that fine arts department, they really got to see firsthand and behind the scenes what was going on over there. So not only are we going to Amitral and seeing advanced manufacturing and robotics, but we're also taking kids to see fine arts, the Finance Park, Amitral is all up there, Universal Woods, Jeff Boat, IUS. We are starting to, and really we have a tremendous partnership with Ford, and I've got a separate slide for Ford. Ford Motor Company is really starting to do some really cool things with us as a district, with our counselors, and with our kids as well. Some really neat things. Jeffersonville High School is on there, and you think, well, that's kind of odd. Why would we job shadow or do a field trip to Jeffersonville High School? Well, we met with Harshal Train, and Harshal Train does all of our HVAC and all of our thermostats and controls. Well, they said, you know, we've got a plant right here in your own backyard, so their engineers have come down and they've worked with our kids that are interested in that and can take them on a behind-the-scenes tour of Jeffersonville High School and how that works without our kids ever having to leave Jeff High or get on a bus. So, and that was one of those conversations that came about just by sitting down and talking to them. They go, you know, why don't you just let us show them where they're at? And so it's been kind of a really neat opportunity for our kids to do that too. Go ahead, Nate. Thanks. You know that we've got a great partnership with Owing Patterns. That's Bob Owings. AT&T, and I've got a separate slide for them. They've been a great partner for us. Vincennes University, that was one of the places where we can get tuition, the kids can get tuition reimbursement. So we took about 44 kids up to Vincennes a couple of weeks ago and chartered a bus to take up there. Vincennes paid for the bus and paid for lunch. And we took 44 kids that probably wouldn't go to a college campus or on a college visit had we not taken them. They just didn't have the resources to do that. These were kids that were kind of on that advanced manufacturing track. So it's an opportunity to go work with your hands, get a job, advanced manufacturing, and then once you get that position, if you want college tuition or reimbursement, I apologize, you could go to Vincennes. BB&T and Mitchell Plastics there in Charlestown, we've got some kids that have been up there, and just a huge wide variety of the different types that we have. Dual credits, board, you're familiar, we continue to offer dual credits. We have about 6 students at Charlestown High School who will earn an associate's degree. One of those is right on the fence, but we think we'll get 6. And then we've got several students who will have a transfer general education degree, which is very similar to that, and that's at Jefferson High School. What is keeping us from that is we've got to find the capstone class or the final class that they would take that would get them associate's degree, and we're working on licensure for that with our teachers. So we should have that up and running certainly for next year. I don't think we'll have it in place for this year. The work ethic certification, you'll remember we rolled that out, and we had the kids sign up for that back in October, and that's the numbers that we have eligible. We were shooting for about 30% of our student population, our seniors, that would get the work ethic certification. And that's where, at the end of the first semester, we were able to run it based on attendance, based on if they had an office referral, and then their GPA. So we ran that, and we've met with all of those kids. We brought them down and met with them in the groups, and then we also go over as an individual. I think that number will stay right about that. We've got a couple that are on the fence. We may lose a few. We've got a couple that maybe have like a 2.4 GPA that we've talked to them that if they will raise their GPA, they're going to be eligible. So it's very fluid. Our goal was to end up at 30%, and wanted to share with you, we're right around that, right on target with the work ethic certification. And again, I said that was the seniors who signed off in October, and not a surprise, attendance is the number one cause for not being eligible. That 98% attendance is what's tripping our kids up. But you'll remember, that's what the business community said they wanted, and that's the way we've rolled it out with some pretty high standards. Internships, we started internships at the semester. So these were kids that started the internships in December and January. We have over 50 internships. Our goal was 50. We're a little bit over 50 internships with the 3 high schools combined. And that's finding a place for these kids to go do the internships, finding the right kids, and then adjusting their schedules. So our counselors have been really busy making that work, and we're really proud of the efforts the whole team has done with that. Kentucky Fame, this is really a unique partnership that we have. GE, General Electric, is leading the charge with this, and they have 25 positions that they're looking for in this region. And these are positions in advanced manufacturing. There are about 12 different companies that are going to be hiring. And what they are doing is they're looking for seniors that will go out and start working. They'll pay them to work 5 days a week as soon as they graduate, Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, at about $12 an hour. They're going to work at these manufacturing at the different companies Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then they're going to go to college. They're going to take classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they'll actually pay them for the time they're sitting in college classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it's a wonderful opportunity. And then once they finish that program, they're going to be employed full-time. They'll start out from day one with benefits, the same benefits that everyone else has at these companies. And by the time they graduate, they'll be 18, 19, 20 years old, have some type of associate's degree, a job in hand, a 401k, benefits, and we'll start out at least at $50,000 a year with the potential to make 6 figures with overtime, in 5 or 6 years. So this is really an opportunity to set up these kids for life and give them a great career. There are 25 positions. There's some competitive nature. You guys know that about Dr. Mellon and myself. We want about half. We've been shooting for half, and we've done just about everything we can do. We've pushed our counselors to handpick the right kids. We've got a great partnership with GE, Randy Reeves, and he actually was the one that came down and talked to our kids, spoke to our kids last week, and he'll be the one doing the interviews, and he's on our advisory board, and he knows what he wants to do. So we really had some good reviews. We went back up and had lunch with Randy, and he was really impressed with our kids at Jeff. And then
Who's
at
our
Charlestown,
competition?
really regional, across the river, any
So
high
Jefferson
school.
County.
Jefferson County, Oldham, Bullitt, Floyd, yeah.
And we're just shooting for 50%?
Well, to start off, if we could get 10 out of 25 out of, yeah, it's a pretty big pool. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's what we're shooting for. But just great feedback from Randy and GE. Ford Motor Company, we've got a great resource in their human resources. And we have, she's made it available for all of our counselors to go over and tour. Julie Strait and I had the opportunity to do that about a month ago, and if you've never seen that, it's a whole nother world. It's pretty neat. So we're going to take all of our counselors over, and then as their season at Ford kicks up, when they start doing interviews, she's asked us to help interview some kids. She was working with a neighboring district, and asked to set up about 20 interviews, and she had 20 interviews set up, and only about half of the kids showed up for the interviews. So she's looking for a different partnership. So we're going to hand pick our kids and make sure we get them over there. But again, we'll get kids on the line there at Ford and set them up with a career and really set them up, for life. So some exciting things with them. AT&T, you guys, this was just a unique opportunity. They have an Aspire program. And it's really with our 21st century kids. They wanted kids that were at risk. This is not our top kids. These are our backbones and probably the bottom half, the bottom third of our backbones, and they ran them through this Aspire program. I went over looking for Mr. Pavey and couldn't find him. Couldn't find anybody in that building. It's pretty empty these days, but they run about 4 or 5 groups, and they have their AT&T employees lead the groups, and they do it in a small group setting of about 10 or 12 of these at-risk kids, and they really re-emphasize what we're doing in the careers classes about setting goals and resumes and life skills and the soft skills with what we're trying to do with work ethic. And I will tell you, the day I was there, it happened to be the Charlestown kids, and just how appreciative the kids were that they got to go see this. And I will tell you that those are kids that probably have never been in a building that size and have not talked to professionals as closely as they were, and just a great opportunity. And the folks from AT&T, really a lot of good feedback about how well our kids behaved and participated, and a lot of good partnerships with them. So really excited about that. That's an update. I was trying to go quick, but it's hard to, we've got so much, and it's so exciting, and it's really life-changing for our kids, but wanted to give you a brief update on where we were with that. With that, if there are any questions, if not,
I didn't, on the partnerships, we didn't have any of the hospitals or any of the medical.
We are with, at Clark Memorial. We
Okay.
just got to go ahead about 10 days ago.
Okay, good.
With the internships, and they will probably be our largest. We'll have more internships at Clark than anywhere else. It took us a little while longer, I think, with that merge and some things that they've got going
Right.
on. But, because it's kind of a small community within a community.
Right.
We've got
You've
all
got
kinds
all
of.
kinds of jobs there.
All kinds. So they've signed on about 10 days ago, and we'll start placing them. It was
Great.
just, they're one of the last ones here to
Great.
get us up and running, but
Thank you.
yes, for sure.
Board, also, I just have to commend Mr. Hare and our whole college and career team, because a lot of work has been done in a relatively short period of time to establish this level of comprehensive partnership. 50 internships, to start 50 internships in the middle of the school year, that's sort of unprecedented. And 350-plus meetings have been held with Mr. Denny and Ms. Null with area businesses, 350 meetings. It's absolutely incredible. And then to see the great opportunities that our kids have. In the advanced manufacturing world, too, the thing it's a challenge for all of us is, what does the advanced manufacturing employee look like? When I grew up in Detroit, I went to the River Rouge steel plant for Ford Motor Company, and it was dark, and it was dirty, and it was hot. And advanced manufacturing doesn't look that way anymore. And so we have to really teach all of our people to understand and identify who are these employees. And they are strong backbone people. They're responsible. They want to get involved and get their hands involved in something. And I think that's something that our people are learning more about every day. So I just want to compliment our people on the great work and the fact that at Charlestown High School we could have 6 students already. You know, we were starting that program officially this year, but with the fact that you have these courses that can integrate into it, to have 6 potential Charlestown High School graduates walk away with an associate's degree this year, that's another incredible feat. So,
Dr. Millen, just one question on that. As we're visiting these different businesses, are we talking to them about the work ethics certificate that our students will be bringing? I mean, are they buying into that? Do they have any recommendations on how to maybe enhance that? Are they willing to, I don't know, come back and endorse it, those kind of things?
you want to talk about that? Well, I talked to both Mr. Denny and Mrs. Null, and everywhere they go, they talk about it. And they're asking businesses, are you interested in this? Is this something that you would support? And they have not had one business they've talked to that's not willing to support it. But now the key factor I've told them is we've got to get them, we are producing something that would be posted in their business that talks about how they support, this business supports the work ethic certification. So we're designing that.
That's good.
It's going to be similar, I think, to the Pride poster. Not that large, but it'll be similar in design to that. Do you want to
Similar
talk?
to that design, and we're actually going to frame it, and down here, we think we've got some room, down here where it'll say, you know, proud supporter of work ethic certification or something like that. We didn't want to come up with a different logo and have 2 logos, but something like that. And you know, part of when we say they've gone out and made contact with 300 businesses, they've met with them, but I think it's important to know there are a lot of follow-up visits because they will take 2 or 3 times to get out there. The first one is just a meeting, and here's what we're doing, and then it's going back and seeing where do they fit in, what are they willing to volunteer. And one of the things that we've asked them to do is, as you go back and they support us with the work ethic certification, we're going to start to compile a list or a database. This is kind of what they'll do. What does that mean? Will they guarantee our kids an interview? That's important. Maybe we've had one place say that, you know, they'll start them out higher if they get hired. Ivy Tech is looking at, you know, they maybe will let them audit a class, or they won't even have to take the class. So we're now compiling what is it that these employees will do for our kids if they graduate with that work ethic certification. So that's the next step.
And the other thing too, Board, Senator Grooms, as you know, he introduced legislation, and unfortunately, they removed the fiscal impact from his bill, but the Senate has already approved this work ethic certification as something that should be implemented throughout the state of Indiana. And so Senator Grooms, who's on our College and Career Advisory, he put his money where his mouth is, and you know, he put legislation in effect. So we're moving in the right direction.
Well, it just kind of came to mind when you're talking about the 50 positions they have at GE, and you know, maybe that gives our kids the advantage because they've got this work ethics certification, whereas the other schools they're competing with don't. So I'm just wondering if we were talking that up as we were having it. So that's encouraging.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have a Neola update, and I think Ms. Lewis is going to take us through that.
Thank you, and good evening. Just a quick update as a follow-up from when we were here the last time and kind of talked about how we were structuring the review process. I have reviewed 2 sections and should have the 3rd section reviewed by the end of this week. Pam Maples will put the changes that I am marking up on the documents. She will put those together, and then we'll put them out in Google Docs. And then the cabinet members, hopefully by the middle of next week, will receive them for their review, and that includes the superintendent. And then our anticipated first review by the GCEA and the board will have them ready for you all to open them and begin your review the first meeting in March. Then at the second meeting in March, we would have the first reading. So the first meeting in March will be a time when you will have the opportunity to review the documents or start that timeline from then until the second meeting in March. And then we'll do a first reading then. So you have some advanced review. And what we're going to ask you is if you have questions or concerns or comments, you can shoot an email to me with your recommendations. You can certainly give me a call. You can print them and forward them to me. They're not going to be in a manipulative format on Google Docs, but you can certainly call me or email me about your thoughts on changes. Then we would anticipate after the first reading, then it would go to corporation discussion, and then if it's applicable, some of these first ones certainly are not curriculum related, employee related. They're more board bylaws, board function. And then, of course, we're hoping to do second reading at the first meeting in April. Now, that said, as we continue on, there's 10 sections total, so we're going to take the first 3 in one lump, and then we're going to, as soon as we get those done, I'm continuing to crank out the first, my review. Pam's putting them together so that you all have ease and convenience of reviewing them. And so we'll kind of be layering over. You may have a second reading and then a first reading, or a first reading and a review. So, we'll layer them over one another so that the process keeps moving forward. But it's working. And when you get a policy, the way we're doing this, the Neola policies, a lot of them have choices in them. So based on our current operational process, I have tried to mark areas that I think are similar to what you as a board are doing now on a policy basis. If that's not something that you like, or you want some changes, or you want some language added in, those are the things that we will be discussing and you can provide to me. Some of the policies are pretty generic. Some of them appear to duplicate. But all in all, they are good quality. From what, my review, they're good quality, and they're pretty broad reaching. So we're moving forward. It's exciting. And I think these first 3 sections will be ones you all will be extremely interested in. The second section has a lot to do with the superintendent's evaluation. On this third section, the first thing is the mission of the corporation, and then definitional language. Well, you have a mission, so we will probably insert our mission in lieu of using their mission, because you have already gone through the process of developing and adopting a mission. But we're on the move, and it's pretty exciting. And at the time that, they go out for an overall review, I'm more than willing to sit down with you or to receive your emails, whatever your pleasures are. But we took the whole policy, by example. We took a whole policy, and it may have 2 or 3 options. All those options are still in the policies when you get them to review. We're not deleting anything in advance of your review. You'll see things we are not included in strike-throughs, things we are choosing as an option for your review in highlights. Any language that we're adding in will be in another color of highlight, and we'll give you instructions overall when we start through the process. But we're not taking anything out of the policies until we get to the point of a second review, which would be your approval. Then at that point in time, we'll clean them up for processing, and then they'll be forwarded. Once they're approved by you, we will forward them on to Neola so that they can start their loading process. So that's where we are. Questions?
I know that the Neola policies are very thorough and, volume this thick. But sometimes there's a policy that's unique to the individual school corporation, and there may not be anything in Neola. How are we going to deal with that? Just,
We'll add them in by example. This evening, you'll be asked to consider approval of the military service credit on a second reading this evening. That will be one that we will maintain. Pam will keep a kind of a running record of those that are not compatible or have unique language to what we are doing, and those will be added where we believe they're where we believe they are appropriate, and then they'll be provided to Neola so that they can format them appropriately and include them. So we will, as we go through it.
so those unique things will be included in the database that people will be able to access through Neola?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. It just costs us. It
Yes,
costs every
I know,
time we
yeah.
every time we become creative, there's an additional cost to creativity. But there's some of the things we need to be creative on. For example, our version of the military service credit, we have worked hard to get that with opportunities for people that have served before, during, or after their military service credit, which is different than most policies are this day. And not even anything that's in Neola, we've already looked. So yes, we are looking at those things, about like our school support groups. We modified the Neola policy, but we've got a lot of our language in that policy. So we're keeping track of that as we go through. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is the budget report, fund monitoring. Dr. Dykle?
Good evening. Go ahead and pull it up. Well, the
Fund monitoring.
fund monitoring, yeah. This is our first go-around at the 2015 report, so you can see we still have to finalize a lot of numbers during the course of the year. One of the big things as we get into the other funds will be the tax caps. We don't have any kind of a report yet from the state as far as what our projected tax caps will be for 2015. But in the general fund, we're looking at ending 2.7 million. That as of December 31st, that number will change based on negotiations that we have with the unions and that. So that number will be adjusted also. January, you'll see we actually spent 7.8 million over here, and that was because we had 3 payrolls in January. So January and July, we always have 3 payrolls, so that's when you'll see a big increase. Other than that, general fund, we just have to look at our revenue, make sure our revenue is going to be accurate as far as what we projected versus what the state projects. Okay, next one. Debt service. We actually made our payments. You can see over here in the actual column on the far end, those are the payments that we've made in debt service. So we paid 1.3 million in debt service. Again, the 965 that we're showing here, we don't know if that's an accurate number or not. We don't know if this estimate's going to be a good number yet until we get the tax caps. So nothing exciting on debt service. Pension debt, we paid our debt there. So you see the 632,000 that we paid. No revenue coming in until June and December for that fund. And again, we've shown 76,000 here as a tax cap. Again, unknown until we get some better numbers. Capital projects. There's hardly any revenue coming in this fund. It's the 20,000 that we get from local county option income tax. We think we're going to end up with about 737,000 in the black, but again, this number here, we don't know tax caps. So we're being very cautious in the very beginning until we see what our numbers are. Transportation fund is my problem child, and you can see we're ending up 75,000 or 176,000 in the black, but we have a big $370,000 tax cap. Hopefully it won't be that much, and we will see 178,000. Then I can put maybe some of that money back into the rainy day fund that we took out last year. Bus replacement fund. This was a nice surprise. We ended up jumping up in revenue, so we should be able to buy a lot of buses Mrs. Ullman, Mrs. Kraft, you'll be happy to hear that we'll be able to buy a lot of buses. And so we should end up somewhere around 5,000, but again, we also have that tax cap of 46,000. And then the last one is the rainy day fund. Really, there's no activity. Well, we had 450, that was an interfund loan, and then another 15,000 for vocational programs that we had to pay out. But other than that, we're still at 3.5 million. Okay, go to the other one now. The other one that I wanted to show you is, since we do have our 2015 budget now, I just wanted to share a couple slides with you, comparing 2015 versus 14. The general fund in 14 was 69 million. We're up to 71, so we're up $1.6 million. We'll have to really verify the general fund revenue to make sure we can suffice or satisfy a $71 million budget. Debt service, we actually went down $795, and that was mainly because of the two refunds that we did for the high school projects. So that lowered the debt service there. Pension came up a little bit more in principal, a little bit less in interest. Capital projects were actually down about 56,000 compared to what we were last year. Transportation is nice, 264,000 up. I love that number, and hopefully it'll stay there. And then bus replacement, you can see we went from 950 to 1.4 million, so we're up 522,000. So overall, we're up 1,580,000 over last year, which is pretty good. Okay. Levy. Here's a good one. Debt service came down $4,080,000. That was the big one that we were anticipating. Pension came down 191,000. The other ones went up. Capital projects went up 492, transportation 224, and bus replacement 311. The overall net effect of our levy went down 3.2 million. That is good. So, assessed value, I'm happy. After 6 years of basically losing assessed valuation, we jumped from 2.3 billion to $2,360 million. That is great. We're finally on an upswing after all these years of decline. I did ask the assessor what was the cause of that, and she says, well, farmland was one. We've had some businesses come in. Less appeals have been approved. So those are the main combinations as far as why our assessed valuation went up. Here's a good one. You can see there's no tax rate in the general fund. Debt service went down 18.6 cents. Pension, barely a half a penny. Capital projects went up 1.3 cents. Transportation up half a penny, and a penny increase on bus replacement. The overall decrease was 16.5 cents. So that's kind of where we're at on the budget for 2015. So any questions?
It's good to see you smile.
Yeah, I'm happy.
We like it when you're
I was
happy.
excited about that assessed valuation though.
All right. Next, I guess, any further questions? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Dykle. Next is student clinic update. Mr. Hare?
I'm happy too, Board. I just wanted you to know that.
Good.
No happy dance, just happy too. Similar numbers, Board, to last year, or last month, I apologize, last month, down just a little bit in our student clinics. And we've been talking with the nurses, with the health assistants, and Kim and I have been talking. You know, we just got to continue to promote it at our elementary schools. You can see the bar graph at the bottom. Those are our number of students seen by grade, and you can see it's just still light at the elementaries and middle schools. So I think that's just we've got to do a better job of promoting it. I think once it catches on, it's going to spread pretty quickly, but we've just got to continue to promote that. The numbers at the top of the chart are very similar to what they were last month. Still about 30% of the kids we're seeing do not have primary care physicians. So we're still seeing, we're still being able to see kids that would normally not be seen by a doctor. So I think we still see that. So nothing really different from last month. So, but did want to share that with you. So, Mr. Pavey, if there are any questions, that was not a lot to go into this one this month. Questions?
Guess not. Thank you. All right. Looks like my thing went out again here. So looks like our next item on the agenda is student achievement, so the 21st Century Scholars Update. So,
Yes, sir.
what's going on with it? Thank you.
Board, wanted to give you a quick update on the 21st Century Scholars and where we're at in the district. You'll remember that, or should be aware that 21st Century Scholars, to be eligible, you have to declare that you are going to be a 21st Century Scholar in 7th or 8th grade. And what that says is that you'll follow the pledge to be drug-free, have a 2.5 GPA in high school, and if you do, then you get that scholarship here in the state of Indiana. So it's important that we get kids signed up in 7th and 8th grade. So I want to show you a little bit of information with our 7th and 8th grades and where we are to date, and then I'll share a little bit of our information with our high schools and how it carries over once they get signed up. So the first group, and probably the most important group, are the 8th grade eligibility. Our 8th graders, and board, you'll remember last year, this was one of those things we had to push at the end of the year and get as many 8th graders signed up as we could. We've been able to stay on this a lot better this year compared to last year, and wanted to share those numbers with you. And I'm going to get around here so I can see. The number that you'll see, the first number of students, that's the number of students in the 8th grade, and then the percent of free or reduced lunch, and that's one of the eligibility requirements, is that a student is on free or reduced lunch. So that gives us the number that would be eligible. So for example, the first line is Charlestown Middle School, 167 students in the 8th grade class. They run about 50% free or reduced lunch, so there are about 83 that would be eligible to be a 21st Century Scholar. Of those 83, we've got 71 enrolled at Charlestown Middle School for an 85% enrollment rate. You'll see New Washington is down a little bit there at 27%, but keep in mind there is pretty small. You know, if we get 2 or 3 kids, that percentage will go up. Parkview, we are starting to focus, part of our college and career initiative, the team, Michael Denny helps us with this, and then the counselors, and you know we've had some turnover there with the counselors at Parkview, and we've got to refocus our effort, but we've got some new folks there that we are starting to spend some time with, and really just needed to get them up to speed on counseling and enrolling students, and then we'll start working with them on getting our 8th graders signed up. And then you can see River Valley, we're running at about 43%. Overall, as a district, we're at 42%, and I've got a statistic at the end to kind of compare us to the state average and where we're at. 7th grade, the number's not quite as high, but we've got to fold under here next year to get those students enrolled. So we put a lot of the emphasis on our 8th graders, but we are obviously enrolling 7th graders, and that's a little new. We've kind of been focusing on 8th graders for the last couple of years, and this is kind of, we're getting out in front of it a little bit better. Certainly there's still some work to do, but certainly I'm pretty pleased with where we're going. This is the class of 2015. These are our seniors by high school. So this is the payoff. There are 54 on the roster that would be eligible. And again, you have to sign up in middle school. So once you start your freshman year, you haven't signed up, you're no longer eligible. So this would be the roster on the state. 54 with a 2.5 GPA or higher is 57%, because that's the threshold, and then 43% is lower. So you'll see we've got about 64% of our kids with a 2.5 GPA or higher that are still on track. And we continue to meet with these kids. Michael Benny through the College and Career Center, and Jeannie Null, we will meet with these kids and help them, especially as the end of the year progresses. There's some new activities, certain things that our kids have to do in high school. In the past years, they didn't have to do that. There are some new things that as a freshman, there are certain tasks they have to complete. As a sophomore, they have to complete. As a junior, they have to complete. And our counselors are working with them to keep them as a cohort to make sure they complete those tasks. So we're really working with them. This would be our total for the classes of 2015 to 2018. These are our numbers that are in high schools. Okay, so these are the numbers that are on the roster at 286 at Charleston High School. 58% have a 2.5 GPA, 42% lower. And again, we'll continue to have those conversations with those kiddos. Overall, as a district, we're running at about 62% of our kids in high school are still eligible for 21st Century Scholars. Just a quick comparison. I've got to go to my cheat sheet here. This comes off of the DOE website, and this is what they have most recent state averages. And let me explain, because these are 2 different columns. The first column, these would be 8th grade students that were enrolled in 2013, the school year, 2013, 2014. So last year's 8th graders, okay? Last year's 8th graders, the numbers that were enrolled, that's the most recent data that they have on the DO website. And I picked our surrounding neighbors to see the percentage, and you'll see we're overall at 61%, and the state average is 36%. So really pretty proud of the work our counselors are doing to get our kids enrolled. And then the second column, a 2.5 GPA or above, that was for the class of 2014. Okay, so that comes off of the DOE website. So the first column would be the 8th graders from 2013 to 2014 that would be starting high school, and then this, the 2.5, would be the seniors of 2014. As far as the state average, you'll see that 47% have them. Ours is 56%, and when you your first look at that, well, 56%, we're down a little bit between some of the other districts that are running 74, 70. But when you look at how many more kids we have that are enrolled, it's going to even out, and probably a real number might be the case. So yeah, 74% of 17% is not nearly what 56% is of 61. You with me? So I wanted to show you that.
But these are two different groups of kids.
But they are two different groups of kids. That's right, and that's the way the state runs that comparison. Actually, the state has a PowerPoint that's about 20 slides. It has all this.
So what's the payoff?
Well,
for the
it's,
student?
a scholarship to a state school in Indiana when they graduate from high school.
I just wanted you to say that.
Okay. So we're pretty excited about the progress. This is one of those things, and it's part of the strategic plan, and it's I don't know, it's one of those things that it just takes a little extra focus, and we've been able to finally get that done, I think. So,
And I hope we're focusing on Parkview.
yes,
Not
yes,
real good numbers.
yes. And it is.
I know.
It's just a personnel issue.
And Board, I would just tell you that, excuse me, that 21st Century Scholars is something that has been around for a long time. The program keeps shifting and changing. Most schools, as you can see by the percentage of enrollment that we have compared to other districts in the state, at least we're moving in the right direction with this, and it takes the effort of our counselors in all of our buildings. It's one more thing on their checklist that they need to make sure they're doing. But, so we're not where we want to be, but we're far ahead of a lot of other people, and ultimately, it's what's great for those kids that are eligible for it.
At the end of 6th grade, are we sending any kind of newsletters out or anything to the kids that are going to be in 7th grade? And also a newsletter out at the end of 7th grade to the 8th graders?
You know, that information, that is happening. You know what the biggest challenge is? The biggest challenge, ironically enough, I guess, or somewhat frustratingly, I guess, is it's hard to get the parents. The parents have got to come in, and either they have to go online or they've got to come in to get help online, and it's really hard. It's not the kids. It's not so much our people anymore going to the kids or the kids, it's the parents, because this takes a little bit of time and takes some effort. And so there's a lot of nurturing that's going on, not between the counselor and the student, but between the counselor and the parents. And so people know that it's there, but to take advantage of it, to take the time to come in and enroll, has been the frustrating part of it. So we feel we're getting the information out. Just have to work really hard to grab those parents and get those parents in. And look at what the end result is for their children. I mean,
Yeah.
it's well worth their effort if they make that
How
time commitment.
complicated of an application is it?
It's easier than it used to be because it is
Yeah, I
online
remember
now.
how
It is online,
difficult it
but you still, and Dr. Mellon's right, and trying to figure out my words and just choose my words carefully here, but they have to, this is what you have to bring in. You have to have the student's social security number, date of birth, and address.
Okay.
But then you need the parent or guardian's social security number or an individual taxpayer identification number, and you need the 2013, which will be 2014, gross income amounts for all members. So there's some tax information that you have to bring too. And keep in mind, these are our kids that are free and reduced lunch and are at-risk kids anyway. So they come from an at-risk background to start with, and then we're asking our at-risk families to provide this kind of information and come in with kids. So it's a.
Are we still
it is a-
asking those parents to fill out an application for free and reduced lunch every year?
We are, we are.
Maybe we could do something together.
And
I
We
mean,
we could look at the, possibility of, see, it's not just being able to register online like we do for a free and reduced lunch application.
Right.
Because they do have to provide some documentation, don't
Right.
they? Is there documentation they need to provide?
no, they can do it online.
They can do it all online?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Could look at the registration process and see how complicated that might be. That might help.
maybe we could link them, especially with
Well,
the seventh
it's
grade
Lincoln,
kids.
and what we're doing is bringing our, and I would want to double check, because I may be wrong when I get,
Okay.
but I think the guidelines are different. The free and reduced lunch is a piece of it, but I don't think they match exactly.
Oh, then that would
But
be a complication.
what we're doing is our counselors are actually coming down, logging online, filling it out with kids, calling parents, and doing it
Yeah.
over the phone. We're spending a lot of time doing it one-on-one like that. And that's probably been the most effective way to get it
It
done.
would be.
Didn't we say we were going to do some home visits and have packets? Is there any way to put the information about this in their packets?
I think
So
that would certainly be a piece we could put in there.
that should be something in their packets.
Good idea. Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea.
It's really about, there's so much on everyone's plate. It's all about just saying that this is important and we've put it on our counselors, and we're asking them to do a lot, and that's fine. They need to do it, and I think that's made the difference, though. But they've also found that there's a group that it's very easy to get this accomplished, but there is also, we have 61% enrollment. There's another 39% that is probably not because we haven't made any effort. It's because of trying to get those parents, for one reason or another, to buy into the concept, to make themselves available. But we'll keep working at it, and we'll look into the registration process and also those home visits and see if that helps.
Well, so many of the kids in the lower socioeconomic range, they don't think they can go to college. They don't think they're ever going to have the money or the wherewithal to go. And, if they know that this is an option for them, it's going to clear that up.
Yeah.
And get them thinking about that in the seventh grade. I'm glad to see that we're doing something in the seventh grade. To me, they're still connected to their parents a little bit more in the seventh grade, and so, good work.
Good suggestions, yeah.
I'm surprised, I'm not surprised, I'm glad to see these numbers coming up. It's great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, next we have the consent agenda. We have 5 items tonight. Like to take those together.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions, comments? All in favor? B50, thank you. Next, we have gifts to buildings, and Ms. Perkins, would you be so kind as to?
Sure, glad to. We have a total of $6,262.40 that has been gifted to us from different organizations and individuals, which I just find absolutely amazing that we have that kind of support in our community, and they give it to our schools for different things. You can see on this list that I noticed that we had the golf team, an individual gave us $750 for the Jeff High golf team. I'm also glad to see that we've got the Charlestown Foundation for Excellence listed here now for their gifts to our schools. And, the PTA from Thomas Jefferson, stage curtain, back and sides, $2,570. A lot of these things would be difficult for schools to purchase or to get without the help of these people. So I move that we accept the $6,262.40.
All right, thank you, Ms. Perkins. Thank you, Ms. Ullman, on the second. Any questions, comments? All in favor? B50, thank you. All right, moving into the action items. First item is policy 4141.1, military service credit, second reading.
That's correct, and there have not been any changes made in this policy since it was presented on January 20th reading. As I explained earlier, the military service credit as allowed by Indiana law applies to education that was received prior to entering it into the military. We are revising and recommending approval of the policy so that persons who have completed a bachelor's degree in education teaching before, during, or after induction into active duty military service would receive the military service credit up to 4 years of experience credit. And the policy would be in effect for individuals newly hired for the 2014-15 school year and thereafter, not going back any further. We don't recommend going back any further than this school year. And we would recommend through the policy that the monies that would be impacted by this would be retroactive to the start of the 14-15 school year. As I explained earlier when we were talking about Neola, Neola doesn't have a policy that deals with military service credit, in part because there is state statutory language on military service credit. We are making changes from that policy, so we are recommending your approval at this time. Additionally, your approval this evening resolves a grievance that was filed by the Greater Clark Education Association, the teachers union, related to military service credit.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Be 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the resolution to reimburse expenditures on the radio TV project. Dr. Dykle?
Yes, at last month's meeting, the board approved moving forward with the radio TV projects for Jeffersonville, Charlestown, and New Washington Middle High Schools. Funding for these 3 projects will come from the bond issues. As part of the bond process, the board needs to approve a reimbursement resolution authorizing repayment for any funds expended related to these projects in advance of the sale of the bonds. Each project will be less than the $2 million bonding threshold, and you have the resolution in your packet for review. So we're asking for approval.
Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Any questions, comments for Dr. Dykle? All in favor? Be 5-0. Thank you. Next is the resolution approving form of second amendment to lease agreement.
Yes, another component of the bond process that we're going to be going through in the next couple months is for the radio TV projects at the 3 high schools is to approve an amendment in the form of a lease for the property to be held. And again, you have the resolution which is attached in your packet. So we need approval for that.
Okay.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. White. Thank you, Ms. Zolman. Any questions, comments for Dr. Dykle? All in favor? Be 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the Catalyst Grant from Community Foundation of Southern Indiana.
That's correct. And the superintendent is recommending this evening the acceptance of the Catalyst Grant from the Community Foundation in the amount of $10,000. The grant was written by our own Dr. Tom Dykle, and we thank him for his efforts, and it was approved in the amount of $10,000, and the funds will be used to support the Student Health Clinic, specifically and exclusively the Student Health Clinic. There is an awards program on February 23rd, and in order for the funds to be released as a part of that awards program, Dr. Mellon needed to sign the acceptance forms and return them to the foundation by February the 13th. He has, per state law, some administrative responsibilities to be able to go ahead and execute documents of that type, coming back to you then for your final approval on them. And this way, we will get the money before the end of this month, which is exciting. And Dr. Dykle will be responsible for the grant management of this project. So we are recommending it the approval at this time.
All right, thank you.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms.
Second.
Perkins. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any questions, comments on accepting the grant? All in favor? Be 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Contract Services, Steve Cook.
Board, Steve Cook is a retired employee of our school corporation. He was in charge of state reporting for many years. We have a new individual, Mark Voynier, who is in charge of that at this point in time. This is the time of the year where the state reports start to really hit, and Steve Cook, we've asked for him to come back on a one-time basis to help in terms of making sure he consults with Mark and making sure all of our state reports are submitted accurately and appropriately. It's a big job, it's a big task, there's a lot on the line in terms of compliance with the state, sometimes with some funding matters. Steve knows all the ins and outs of that, and so Mark, in his first year in that position, we'd appreciate you approving us bringing in Steve on a consulting basis. It'll be for no more than 30 hours at a rate of $70 an hour.
Okay.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions, comments for Dr. Mellon?
What kind of state reporting? Is this just your typical,
As you know now, everything is submitted to the state through our student management system.
Right.
And so Power School is the key factor, and Mark is in charge of that. So it's important that all of the reports are accurate and completed in a timely fashion. And so we're at that point in time where Mark needs that extra help.
who oversees that process? Are you the final sign-off person on them?
Ultimately, yes.
Okay.
Amy Schellenberg, though, is the individual, part of her area of responsibility is our technology area. So she is the one that's probably the first direct supervisor in that area. But ultimately, all reports need my signature generally.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I know Steve would do a great job, but I hope Mark can, if he's behind, hope he can get caught up. The last financial report was done on February 2nd. That was the count date, so that's came and went. So if there was a problem with that, hopefully we'll get that corrected. The big state report going on now is testing labels for the ECA at the end of the school year. So maybe if you have, like I'm sure Steve does, he's familiar with software, and that software drives the data reports. So as soon as Mark is made aware of that or gets familiar with that, he'll do a great job with it.
Mark has done a really good job, Board, in transitioning. It's just such a big undertaking with just a lot to learn. And so we're not really behind in anything that we're trying to get accomplished, but we're at that point where to have that extra set of eyes there to make sure that when Mark is doing all this work, that it is done accurately the first time. That's really
Yeah, it's coaching.
the focus. Yes.
And this is a one-time contract.
One time, yes.
All right, further questions? All in favor? B50, thank you. Next item is the contract for WAN internet filtering.
Board, we're recommending tonight a renewal of a 3-year contract with Lightspeed. We have been utilizing Lightspeed as our filtering software for the past 3 years. They've done a very good job. Our current contract with Lightspeed expires here this month, so we need to take action. A 1-year renewal would cost $56,000. The 3-year agreement is $109,094. So we get a break in pricing by going to the 3-year. Along the line here, Jason Davis, who's our network individual in charge of filtering, he has been over the years also piloting other filter products that are out there just to see how they compare to our Lightspeed product. And according to Jason, there's not a better filtering product that he has seen than the one from Lightspeed. So I want to make sure you understand that Jason's done a lot of work over the years to look at the different filtering products that are out there, and Lightspeed has done a really good job for us. So at this point in time, I'd like to recommend a 3-year renewal of Lightspeed for $109,094.
Okay.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins.
Second.
I think I saw Ms. Zolman first, thank you. All right, questions, comments for Dr. Mellon?
What account is this funded out of?
Capital projects, I believe.
And this is a budgeted item?
Yes.
Dr. Mellon has had one question on this. Are we required to put this out for RFP with the amount that's involved? I mean, 109K, I guess it is, or Are we required to do that, or? what's the-
Oftentimes, the guideline from the state usually is if you have something that's over $75,000, that you should go out and get 3 quotes. But there's an exception to that, and exceptions come to items that are sort of specialty types of services. A lot of times, software is one of those exceptions. And so we've done that in other software recommendations we've brought forward to you as well, is that if there are either just a select group of them out there, if we've had past experience already with the product, there are certain exceptions to that $75,000 request for quotes. And this is one of those exceptions.
Okay, very good. Further questions? All in favor? B50, thank you. Discussion items. Mr. White, anything tonight?
No, thank you.
Ms. Perkins?
No, thank you.
Ms. Zolman? Mr. Hall?
No, thank you.
Okay. And any reports, requests, I'll just ask across the board. Nothing? Okay. Dr. Millen, public comments on non-agenda items, anything tonight? No? All right, we're down to board comments, so Mr. White?
So I thank Travis for those reports on the college and career readiness and on the 21st scholars. I mean, those are just, those numbers and those statistics, everything are just, make you really proud of Greater Clark and what we're doing. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Perkins?
Well, I'd like to congratulate our staff for the work they did so far this week for the snow. Who knows about tomorrow and the next day and the next day, but it seems to be working. You contacting the parents, but could you call me at the end of the list? That phone went off at what, 7 o'clock this morning?
6:20.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Was it that? I didn't even look. I just,
We want to keep you informed.
I appreciate that so much, but could you inform me later in the day?
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Zolman?
I just want to thank Ken Watson for sending me a nice email on some questions I had about bus issues. And he sent me a very nice email and responded very quickly, so I appreciate his help.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hall?
No, thank you.
Okay. I have nothing, so Dr. Mellon, you want to close us out?
Just a couple of things, Board. I was fortunate enough to be asked to speak at Harshaw Train's annual associates event that they have over in Louisville. And they wanted me to speak about different experiences that I've had as a superintendent and as someone that is working with them as a vendor and talking about relationships and all that. So it was a very neat opportunity for me to do that. But the best thing about it is that Harshaw Train presented a check to our foundation for $500 as a result of my efforts over there. So I greatly appreciated that fact, and so that check will be given to our foundation and certainly will be well utilized. Our strategic plan, we had a mid-year review scheduled for Thursday, and we thought probably it's going to be the coldest, could be the coldest weather we've had in a long time, so we thought we'd be better off to reschedule. So I appreciate Renee helping and making sure that happens. So I believe it's in the first week of March 5th or something of that nature. And then winter sports, you know, there's a lot to talk about there, but just generally speaking, I'm just so proud of all of our winter sport athletes. You know, a lot of times our girls basketball teams, they've all performed admirably in sectional tournaments. I saw New Washington play, and Charlestown did a great job as well, and Jeff went to the sectional championship just like Charlestown, and we've had wrestlers go on to the state meet, and it's not over yet, but just to go and watch our teams compete, and just very proud to see how they represent themselves. That's it for me.
Okay, very good. All right, so we're down to adjournment, so do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. All in favor? All right, good night.